Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I thought we would do a garden tour today. It's July the 18th, so we're just past the midpoint of July and things are changing so fast. We're kind of in that summer lull and lots of dead ending needs to be done or has been done, and basically that's been pretty much all that I've been able to do. I was in a car accident in early June, so that's kind of laid me out in terms of doing a lot of the more intensive garden tasks I've been avoiding. But we've had definitely summer weather. It's been really nice and warm and toasty, and it's finally cooled down. So this weekend is supposed to be a little bit more manageable temps. Really nice and cool, nice to be outside, and beautiful blue sky still. So I think it's a perfect time to do a garden tour, and the purpose is of course to document all of these changes. And there's been some things that have happened since my last tour that have come and gone that I missed, so it's long overdue to do this tour. So I'm going to start with the backyard and finish with the front yard. So behind me we see our fruit trees. So this is a plum tree, this is a cherry tree, the tall one, and we also have an apple tree and a pear tree. So you can see the apple tree is like loaded, and then our plum tree, which you can see a little bit, is also loaded. Unfortunately, like, I don't spray the apples or the plums, so they're not really the best for eating. We just end up, you know, kind of collecting them and then giving it to farmers around here, like for their pigs or wildlife, or we have raccoons that come and they munch on them as well. But I try to keep it kind of clean, so I collect them and compost them or donate them, because they can attract wildlife. So let's start with the backyard. So I'm going to start with this corner here. Now we have a lot of hydrangeas. This is like kind of a hydrangea lane. And in the corner back here, you can see we have astilbe. So that astilbe has kind of faded. Unfortunately, astilbe, the color doesn't last that long, but you can see the hydrangeas. I love the hydrangeas because they stay in bloom all summer. And you can see that this is a mix of pink, of more blue tones and purple. So you can see, like, most of the time these are pink like this, but I did add a sulfate, aluminum sulfate at 1 year, and that effects are still kind of, you can see it's still having an effect on this even after a couple of years. So you can see all the beautiful mixed colors, which I love. So these all these hydrangeas are affected by the pH of the soil, so you can change their colors. Some of them are not something you can change, and these are all kind of the mop head variety. And I wanted to leave a close-up on this one. This one is called Hydrangea Love. You can see the beautiful petals on there. So this one didn't bloom for me last year, so it did bloom this year. So I think I'm going to be very careful when I do pruning on that one, to make sure I don't prune it at the wrong time, because I might have cut off the blooms 1 year. And you can see a lovely weed here, so we'll get that. But also these other hydrangeas, I didn't plant them, my sister planted them. So I'm not really sure what variety they are, but I'm assuming they might be Summer Crush or some variety similar to Endless Summer, one of those types. Now I'll just wait for that plane to go by. You can see all this astilbe here. So this was all various shades of pink, and you can see it's kind of now this straw color. So it's kind of faded out, but it was glorious when it was in bloom. And you can see just the tips there of the pink that are still in bloom. And this is a very, very shady area, and it disappears into nothingness in the winter. And you can just imagine, like, it just looks like there's nothing there, and then the astilbe pop up and it's completely full, this corner. And unfortunately, like, I love astilbe, but the blooms just do not last very long. The color anyways. Here is a Francis William hosta, which is quite large and blooming and looks great. And then I've got my lady's mantle, so you can see that this is obviously a very shady corner. I still have some peony foliage there, and there's another astilbe next to it. And then I have another hydrangea that I actually ended up accidentally propagating, so it's a split. So that is kind of in its second or third year, and that is a tough stuff, which is a split from this one here. So this is a lace cap variety. It's called lace cap because of the structure of it. And you can see that this one is also kind of a pinky purple. The natural color of my soil, it would make it pink, but with the addition of the aluminum sulfate, has changed the color a bit. And this lace cap variety, I think, is called Tough Stuff, and that's a proven winners. And that one, it kind of propagated itself. A branch was under the soil and it developed roots, so it was split. Here, this variety is called Peacock, and this one has black stems. And you can see like where the old growth was down here, and the new growth is all black. The stems are black. So a very, very interesting hydrangea. So there's another one called Zebra, which has white blooms, and this one is called Peacock, and it has purple or pink or blue blooms depending on your soil. But yeah, the Peacock variety, the colors change, and they're very, very tall, you can see. And the Zebra variety is black stems with white blooms, and they're called hydrangea onyx, I believe. Unfortunately, we did have some rain which kind of like flattened them, and I can see that I probably should have been more aggressive with my pruning, but I was very cautious pruning them. So I think, like, look how big this bloom head is. It's just massive, beautiful. All right, what else do I want to show you? So moving along this hydrangea lane, I have a heuchera here, I have a peony. This one I believe is Firelight Tidbit, and this is an amazing, amazing hydrangea. It is a little bit behind the other ones, but it's a panicle type hydrangea. It starts off with this creamy kind of chartreuse. It turns into these white blooms, and then it goes into this brilliant kind of red color, pink, deep red, deep pink type of color, and it's gorgeous. And you can see like the flowers are widely spaced, so it's, I think, a little bit better for pollinators than the tightly spaced ones. And then this one I believe is a Limetta, and it's a small one because I think that was just a recent addition, so that one's quite small, still getting established but looking good. And this is my little lime here, and my little lime is a panicle. It's the kind of the limelight but a mini version, so I have that anchoring this corner here. All right, the other thing I wanted to show you before we leave this side yard is my clematis. So this is Viva Polonia, which is on its second flush here, and it's looking gorgeous. Look at those beautiful colors. I just love that vibrant, vibrant color. So quite vigorous, excellent clematis. I love that one. And then I do have my lilac on standard, but the clematis on here, the Vagabond, is not currently in bloom. So you just got to kind of stagger your clematis so you have different bloom times. And let's see what's notable here. I have my Powwow White Echinacea. Rose Campion is starting to go over. Some Pincushion flower. Back here I've got Limelight Prime. So kind of got it back in the corner to see how it would do. The other clematis I wanted to show you was this one, which is the Sweet Summer Love. So that's the other Proven Winners type I have. And you can see just how floriferous it is. So it's got 4 petals, and it's just, you can see the amount of bloom on there. The flower power, it's crazy. I have 2 other clematis on this 3-sided trellis, but you can see this one is like clearly the winner. All right, let's move along. Try to keep this short. So here is my David Austin Alnoic Rose, which is blooming. Look at that, beautiful cupped roses. This one's a little bit older, and then this is the bud phase. Just a beautiful rose, Alnoic Rose. Beautiful pink, and it's all budded up for its second flush, looking great. All right, so here I have some more Echinacea. So I had just put them in here last year as placeholders because I wasn't sure when I wanted their final location, but they're doing great here. So I think this might be Once in a Melon. This is a white variety, and then that must be Cheyenne Spirit. But behind that is the Bobo hydrangea. So Bobo is one of my favorite hydrangeas, and I'm sure you can see why. You can see it's a panicle type. It's the perfect size. It's like a kind of a, right now it's about 2 feet, but I think it's 3 feet or so. It's a beautiful hydrangea, and you can see how white it is. I have some Nigella down here. So that one is white flower, but another name for Nigella is Love in a Mist. Beautiful, just beautiful flowers. This is Rose Campion in white, which looks like it's about almost done its bloom. Here's my Zephyrine Druin Rose, which looks like it needs some deadheading. I have another Bobo underneath there. And then panning along this long border, Kind of the star of the show was the rose campion, and that's kind of faded, and it's like probably time to cut it down. I don't want rose campion everywhere. I did have foxglove, which I did cut down because I didn't want it to self-seed everywhere. But I wanted to point out this Ruby Invincible hydrangea, which has got these beautiful pink blooms. So this was a clearance find that I put in last year. So it's its first year, so it's doing okay, and hopefully it will establish there and get better and better over time. I have my one tomato plant here. I've got some Monarda or bee balm, and this white plant here is it's known as Gara, but it's also known as bee blossom. So that is a beautiful plant. I had put in a few of those last year, and some of them survived, some of them didn't. And here is another echinacea we have. I'm not sure what type this is. It's a little bit early to tell, but it looks very unique. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. This hydrangea is not doing the best. I believe that might be my Limelight Prime that I took out of the pot. So we'll see how that does. Back here, I have this wildflower growing, which is Solidago. I believe it's like goldenrod Solidago, and it is a pollinator magnet. So I'm leaving it. I debated pulling it, but because it's covered in pollinators, I thought I'd leave it. So last year it started in this corner and it's kind of spreading, but it's at the back of my garden, so I don't mind it too much. I'm just gonna keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't go crazy. Here's my lavender. This bush has been here for a very, very long time. It's very happy, even though it's like in a part shade location. It is just loving its life, blooming like crazy. Next to it, I have black pearl heuchera. So this is one black pearl, and you can see it loves its life, it loves its spot, because it is just taken over and expanded and just looking amazing. And I did put this yarrow in last year, this white yarrow, and it looks really good, so I'm happy with that. So this is my bird bath that broke, and I changed it to a succulent planter, and you can see everything in here is blooming pretty much. So we have this Angelina sedum, which is blooming. So this is what it looks like it's not blooming. So it's kind of got like a lemon coral sedum look to it. And then these are my rosettes. So these are pink rosettes that have put on these bloom stalks, and unfortunately I think once they bloom they're done, but they're happy. And I have a few more here. You can see 1, 2, 3 here. So I do have some still in there, but yeah, a few of them have bloomed. All right, I'm gonna turn you around to my back border here, and I wanted to show off these beautiful lilies. Aren't they beautiful? So this is not the ideal spot for them because it's shaded, but they are leaning towards the light and they bloom every year, and I always forget to move them to somewhere more sunny, but they bloom and they are looking amazing. So I can't remember if those are stargazer, but anyways, I have the name of it somewhere, but they're just stunning. Here I have my Hawkenacloa grass, which is looking good. And then the star of the show, which always is kind of like the focal point in my garden, are these Limetta hydrangeas. And Limetta is probably my favorite hydrangea, with Bobo a close second. But these Limettas, I don't know why they're not more popular. To me, they're like just gorgeous. So they're like the mop head, maybe the arborescens type, but they're big round balls of fluffy blooms, and they're like, for me, the perfect size. I have them kind of flanking this garden bed, so I have one on each side, and I just love them. Love them. They just catch your eye in the backyard from any window in the house. Let's see, what else do I want to point out? I have another hydrangea in the middle here, and this is a Miss Sayori hydrangea, and I thought it was always pink, but I didn't amend the soil at all, and you can see that it's kind of like got a purplish blue tone to it. So that hydrangea has a very dark foliage and beautiful bloom on it, just stunning. And last year it did not bloom. I was only put in a couple years ago, so I'm very happy to see it bloom and thrive, and it looks like it's doing amazing. And I'm wondering if these pine needles kind of turn that soil more acidic to make those blooms blue. But that pine has only been in there since last year, so I don't know if it could have that much effect on it. Anyways, this is my phlox, Glamour Girl phlox, that I had a division it self-seeded itself and I moved some into this bed. So I was expecting this hydrangea behind it to be pink, so they would be like kind of a similar color, but I don't mind the contrast. This is my banana cream Shasta daisy, and not banana cream 2, just the original one. But I had actually 3 of these as like kind of like a hedge, and I love the look. Unfortunately, this one thrives, but the other 2 just are not thriving. Clearly, you can see there's just one bloom on that one. And so I had put an echinacea here. It's like a double scooped variety. But I find those double scoop varieties, they don't really come back that great. So we'll see. And you can see like the comparison doesn't even compare. So I might have to like try banana cream again in these spots and see if I can make it work. I'm not really sure why this spot is just loving it and like just literally like, you know, so close right next door. It's not working. And you can see that this weed is just everywhere in my garden. This weed here. And the funny thing is, like, I couldn't really weed because of my car accident, so it's kind of spread everywhere, but it's easier, much easier to see and pull when it is in bloom like that. Anyways, here's my other limetta. And then in the back, so I've got my autumn joy sedum that's going to bloom in a little bit later in the summer. I've got my apple tree loaded, but I've also got these 2 foxglove. So the other foxglove that I cut back are the pink variety that are kind of native here. They just kind of grow wild. But these 2 are the Pam's Choice variety, which are like kind of the more, they're white with like a purple center, purple dots or speckling. So these I am letting go to seed because I would love to get more of those and let them self-seed everywhere. It's a lot of weeding to be done in this bed. But turning over to my shade garden here, let's take a look at that. So it's dominated by my Francis William hosta, which I love, which has behind it a fern, which is doing great. So we have a lot of ferns in the Pacific Northwest, so I was not surprised at all that it's doing so well. I have a hellebore here. I put this silver gumdrop heuchera here earlier this year as a clearance plant. That one I had in there already, and I just loved it so much I had to like add to it. And you can see I've got some ground cover here, lamium. I've got some Angelina stonecrop as ground cover as well. And let's see, so I have another hosta here, and this is the Royal Standard hosta. And this is the Citrus Shock Heucherella. So I've got one here and one here. And I'm just loving that lamium as ground cover. And actually I found a whole flat of it on clearance at a nursery, so I picked up a whole flat of it. This poor plant I've had for so long and it hasn't found a home yet, poor thing. Really gotta get on that. All right, what else can I show you? So here is my lady's mantle, which needs to be cut back now. The blooms are fading. I have a coralberry, proudberry coralberry here. So nothing too interesting on that yet, but beautiful greenery. I've got my Winecraft black smoke bush here, looking lovely. And you can see I have more stilbe, which are starting to fade out. So I'm glad I could capture some of the color before I totally lost color. And then this bed, so we have a panicle hydrangea here. So all the panicles I have in this bed are little lime punch. So those start out with that beautiful chartreusey color, going to red white, and then going into that vibrant red color. Now, what can I show you in this bed? So here's another, this Astilbe is lasting much longer. Its color, I think it's just because it's in a more protected location, but you can see the beautiful color on that Astilbe. So if you're looking for color and shade, go for Astilbe. This is my other Ruby Invincible hydrangea, which I rescued as a clearance plant. It's doing much better than the other one, but this one was planted earlier, so I had to kind of stake it behind there because it was flopping over onto the lawn. But it seems to be doing well. It just needs a little bit more time, I think, so its stems can kind of strengthen, but the color is just amazing. All of these Astilbe were white, and now they've kind of gone to a straw color. Here I have my Onyx and Pearls penstemon, and I also believe I have a little bit of Midnight Masquerade in there. But I let some of it go to seed, and I let some of it, I deadheaded some of it because it just spreads, and which I love. I don't mind it spreading, but kind of want it to take over this corner, which it has done. So some of it I did deadhead. And then I find the seeds interesting, so I leave some of the seeds as well. And of course I have more Astilbe. I have a lot of this Visions type, which is like stockier and sturdier stem. And here we have my, what I thought was my shady garden bed. Turns out it's actually not that shady. So I actually watched the sun one day, and it's like in the sun from 11 a.m. till at least 4 p.m. So it's a lot more sun than I thought, which means that my hosta is getting kind of bleached out a bit. But one other thing I could show you is that this hydrangea, it was a division. So it had kind of self-rooted itself. And then I cut it off from the mother plant, and then I moved it here because I thought, okay, well, you can never have enough hydrangeas. And it's this beautiful pink color. And I think it'll do well in this corner here. So more Astilbe. This is my Ogon Acorus grass, which is supposed to like damp areas, and that corner gets very, very damp when it's rainy season. Now I had put annuals in this bed, specifically impatiens, and they haven't really done what I wanted them to do. Like they haven't really kind of spread out and grown. And I think the reason is because I think it's more of a sun bed, or at least a part sun bed, than it is a shade bed. So I kind of miscalculated that. But I did put some alyssum along the edge, which I hope will overwinter. This was a transplant. This is like, I believe, a very fine wine Weigela, I believe. And I transplanted it. It seems to be doing well. Also transplanted this pulmonaria. Seems to loving its life there. This is another Bobo hydrangea. And in the back, the hosta divisions I put in here seem to be doing really well. And then I have hellebores in the back that I had planted this year, but I had to give them a severe cutback because they had aphids. And they seem to be doing okay. Like the soil is not great, but I think I need to come in here and weed. So you can see like there's quite a bit of weeding to be done, and I hadn't had a chance to mulch because of, again, like my accident. So everything is a little bit undone still. All right, so here is my shrub border, which if you watch my previous videos, you know that we had this edging put in with reused fence posts that are treated. So it's looking really nice and neat, and it got mulched. So that is doing really well. And these are my hydrangeas that I had in pots in previous seasons. Panicle white. So I did get interrupted, so I'm resuming my tour of my garden in the back in July. A couple weeks later, it's the last day of July, and one area I didn't cover was my center island. So here we have my Gertrude Jekyll rose. It did its main bloom flush in June, and now we're just getting sporadic blooms. I am keeping it deadheaded to encourage more growth. And I think it's time for a feed, but I don't want to fertilize in the hot weather. So we're starting to cool down a little bit, so now might be a good time. I underplanted it with some alyssum that I'm hoping will overwinter. I also have a Miss Sayori hydrangea underneath. So I showed you one earlier that was more purple, and this one is definitely more pink blooms. Also have some floss flower ageratum kind of popped in between the alyssum here, just some annual, just for some color around the edge. You can see I have some pincushion flower. That's this purple one here. I'll do a little close up on that. I love pincushion flower, it's so pretty. That's a butterfly blue variety, which is a perennial. Behind that, this foliage here, that is storm cloud Amsonia, which puts on a show in spring. So right now it's not in bloom. And I did want to show off, this is pink cashmere verbena. So this actually overwintered for me, which was a very pleasant surprise. I didn't think of it was going to perennialize for me. I thought it was going to be an annual. So that was really nice. I've got one on the other side as well, but it's just currently out of bloom right there. So hopefully that will bloom again. And I have some calamintha here that's kind of self-seeded itself. This foliar growth here is a Illuminati mock orange, Illuminati tower. I've got one on both sides. And then just spinning around, you can see that I have another Miss Sayori on the back side of this, and that one is also pink. One plant I really wanted to show you guys was this agastache or agastaki, and this one is called Sunrise Red, I believe. This one is a great hummingbird attractor, so I have seen so many hummingbirds come drink from this plant, and I wasn't really sure about it because of the color doesn't quite match and it's a little bit floppy, but the fact that the hummingbirds love it, it's a great plant to have in your garden. These I have planted are mahogany monster, so I planted them kind of to just fill up some blank spots in here in the back, and also have kind of some coverage that that nice color that kind of would handle sun and shade, because this is the back side, so it gets a little bit more shade. So that is kind of my center island, and I did have another Sunrise agastaki on the other side, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it made it. So that's that. Now stepping back in the garden, I did add these kind of coin slot garden beds in the back, and they're kind of like a semi-parterre garden in a way, a little less formal. But one plant I did have to stake is this lilac on standard. So I had to stake it because it kept getting pushed over by the wind and not standing straight. So I did stake it, and it seems to be holding, which is nice. And I think once the trunk kind of thickens up a little bit and gets a little bit more established, then I can remove the stakes. But the star of the show here is the sea holly. So this is blue glitter sea holly, and I have 4 of them. I planted them very late last season, and they were kind of a clearance buy, and I really didn't expect them to come back because they don't like to be kind of wet, and our winter was very, very wet, and in fact these were kind of even flooded at one point. So I was thinking there's no way those are going to make it, and I was like, well, luckily I didn't spend too much on them. But as you can see, they have made it, and they are such a pollinator attractor. They are usually just covered in pollinators. So the reason they aren't now is because I was watering, but it's just such a stunning plant. You can see like it's got quite a bit of height. It's probably at least, I don't know, 3-4 feet. It's got this beautiful color, so such a striking plant. So I'm a big fan of that one. And I also had transplanted some wildberry coneflower or echinacea down here on either side of my lilac on standard. Those seem to be doing well. You can see I have some nigella down there as well that has kind of made this very interesting seed pods. So I always leave those, and the nigella kind of self-seeds itself. So that's this one here, and then over on this side I did put in some scabiosa seedlings, some annual ones that I popped in here. I think it's called Dark Night, that I picked up at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. So these, I don't do really well with seedlings, but these ones did make it, and they're beautiful. So let me give you a close-up. How gorgeous is that? So that is the annual pincushion flower, or scabiosa. I showed you the perennial one earlier, which was the butterfly blue. So nice. I also did put in some blue grama grass seedlings, and looks like this one might be it. Super cute, but really difficult to kind of plant those because you can't really distinguish between regular grass and grass that is purposely planted as seedlings. So anyways, so that is the center island and the 2 little, I call them coin slots here. And I think I've shown everything else other than I have my little corner bed here I can show you, which has some Glam Girl phlox, which is another plant that really attracts hummingbirds. I've actually seen a hummingbird moth on them, so that's really exciting. So that is a beautiful plant. It's kind of the central focus of this garden bed, but I've also got it underplanted with some astilbe, which do really well. So this is like kind of a purple color, and the astilbe have kind of faded out in color. And then this is a bobo hydrangea here, which is looking great. And I've also got some of the onyx and pearls penstemon in there. So that is kind of the July garden tour. Just finishing it up on the last day of July. I did have a lot of bumps in the road this July. And you can see there's my Japanese maple. It's a bloodgood. So I'll show this off. I kind of have to weed this garden bed. I just haven't been able to do that, but it is doing really well, my Japanese maple. And it's underplanted with hostas. You can see this beautiful purple hosta, lavender hosta blooms underneath here. And yeah, I've got 4 hosta under there and then 1 hikura. So just definitely have to be weeded, but everything's doing really well. So that is the July garden tour. And I'll just give you an overview in the backyard to show you kind of the layout of what we've looked at. And you can see since the last time I showed you my garden, the limetta in the back there, they've gotten a little bit more brown because we did have some heat and I kind of neglected watering them for a little bit, so they did brown up a little bit, but still looking relatively good. I've also taken out some of the rose campion that kind of had taken over and had kind of browned out a little bit. So because it had browned out, I did cut it back and remove that. And my sweet autumn clematis here is doing really well. It's gotten all the way to the corner there, so that blooms usually in September. Here's my other stand of phlox on this side. And just to give you perspective, where we started is here in this hydrangea lane. And here are my hydrangeas. And you can see that the peacock ones are flopping a bit. So that's something, I think I didn't cut them back hard enough last year. So that's something to note for my garden journal, is that make sure to cut those back hard so that the stems can kind of stay upright. And that is the backyard garden tour. We will do a brief tour of the front garden before we conclude. And I've got to show off my container here in the front, which I just love. So this was a watermelon kufia that I got, and it was a proven winner's variety, and I was a little bit hesitant getting it because of the color, but I just love it. It's done so well in this container. Also have some heliotrope here, fragrant heliotrope, which is also doing really well. I love this petunia. This is, I think, called Crazy Moon, something like that, but it's got both yellow and purple tones. I had it in here last year as well, and it's something I will always repeat because I just love this petunia. It's probably my favorite petunia. And turning the corner here, we've also got some ageratum floss flower. I just love that texture. They look like little cotton buds, so I always pop that in when I can. And then I have some glacial ivy, which is my spiller there that spills over the edge, and that overwinters for me, so never have to buy a spiller. But very, very happy with this container. I don't quite remember this petunia, but I think that might have overwintered. It looks like a jazzberry, which I don't believe I planted. So, beautiful container. Don't be scared of color. So here we are in the front driveway area, and just for perspective, we can just show you that is the hydrangea lane where we started our tour, and this is just at the top of the stairs here. We have this kind of corner garden bed at the edge of our driveway here. That's a little bit of a triangle. It's almost like a container bed in a way, but we have a lot going on. So the obelisk holds my David Austin Crown Princess Margarita, which you can see is this lovely, lovely color here. Just a gorgeous rose. It is a climbing rose, and it's kind of trained on this obelisk and along this back fence here. It's a little bit out of bloom, but you can see there's lots of buds, so a lot more blooms coming. I did have a Jackmanii superba clematis growing up here, which is now out of bloom. You can see here's the seed heads. but that gives a really nice kind of purple interest as well. And we have I believe this is a gold flame honeysuckle, kind of trained along this fence here. So we have one on this end, and we also have one on this end, which is less vigorous, but you can see it's still got some blooms. So again, that's a beautiful plant. It has a gorgeous scent, and it really attracts hummingbirds. And you can see the flowers turn into these red berries here. So a lot of interest with this plant. And I do hack it back pretty severely, and it just grows like crazy. So the other plant we have here, this is a lilac, and it's a reblooming variety. So I'm hoping, I did deadhead it quite early this year, and I'm hoping it will rebloom. And you can see we do have buds. So hoping for a good rebloom this year, because I haven't had that rebloom really in the past. Alright, so as I was saying, this lilac, hopefully it will rebloom. I haven't had a really good rebloom in the past. This is a dwarf bloomerang variety, and hopefully it will rebloom. I have some lavender underneath here, which I've done some deadheading on, but that's looking great. Beneath here, I added this year this candy tuft iberis, just for a pop of color in that shade, and it's doing pretty well. It's kind of well past its bloom time now. And the kind of more color is on this end here, which is more sun. What we have here is some wildberry coneflower echinacea, which is that vibrant pink color. And I also have some coreopsis. And the jury's still out on this coreopsis because I really love the color, but I just don't love how it's flopping everywhere. So I put in like, I think 3 plants, maybe more, but you can see it's just kind of flopping all over the place. So this is a new plant. This is its first year kind of blooming in this garden. And I love the color, but yeah, that flopping kind of habit is not something I'm a fan of. So that may or may not go. I figure I'd give it another year. Maybe it just needs to be established more. It's another candy tuft here, and in the corner I've got this Nepeta. I think this is called Kitten Around Nepeta, which takes a beating being in that little corner, unfortunately. This is my boxwood, which is supposed to be an anchor piece that unfortunately got damaged this year. Nobody's claimed responsibility, but pretty sure somebody drove into it. So I kind of cut out the dead here in this corner, but it leaves a big hole. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep this plant here or take it out because it's just not looking the best. And it used to be a beautiful, perfect spear, so a little bit unhappy about that, but that's what happens. And just swinging around, we have this garden bed just in the front of our home, in the front, just underneath the windows here, which is mostly roses. So my mom's a big fan of roses, and I've been deadheading them, keeping them kind of happy. So we have some red ones and pink ones, and I actually want to replace one of them with the Queen of Sweden I bought. But I wanted to point out this is alyssum on the bottom here. And the big one on the corner here, on both corners, have been in there for a couple years. So this is their second year, so they're much more established and they're looking really nice. The fact that they just bloom and bloom and bloom nonstop, I just love that alyssum. And the other one plant I wanted to show you here is my purple pillar rose of Sharon. And you can see it's gotten quite tall. I did do a light prune on it, but it's gotten quite tall. Fills out this corner just beautifully. It is budded up. You can see here the buds. And of course, you know, we're at the end of July here, and hopefully it'll be blooming soon. But in terms of a nice green plant, anchor plant, I think it looks really nice there. And I wasn't sure if, you know, it would have enough room and just in this little tiny garden bed here. But it seems to be doing okay. And probably now would be a good time to fertilize it because it is looking a bit yellow. Alright, so let me swing you around to show you. We have a bed between our neighbors and our house, which is this kind of driveway bed. And we can see what's going on here. So we have some white pillar rose of Sharon. So this one has buds all over it, but it's not blooming quite yet, so it's a little bit behind. But we have another one a little bit ways down, which it has some blooms on it. So I'll show you the blooms first. See, it's looking pretty good. covered in buds. So doing pretty well this year. And then I did put some sunflowers in here, the Pro Cup variety. So they're kind of one and done. And they're kind of done their bloom period, but I have left them up for kind of the birds. So you can see that those are the seeds in there. So I kind of left them for the critters. And then I have some cosmos all over here, which kind of self-seed themselves, which I'm a fan of. I also have some echinacea. This is coneflower. Look at this one, so unusual. I think this might be powwow white, maybe. Can't really remember now. The yellow or the orange one here is calendula, which also self-seeds. And I did see that I had some larkspur growing here. Beautiful larkspur, which I don't recall planting, but I did have seeds, so maybe it just self-seeded itself. This is a little Veronica here, this pink one. Now working our way down, we have a Japanese Andromeda or a Pieris here. It's beautiful in spring. Right now it's just kind of regular shrub looking plant. And moving down we have my lilac on standard. Looks like I might need to fix that stake here. It's underplanted with some lavender. Looks like the lavender might be being enjoyed by the bumblebee, but looks like it needs some deadheading now. This is some feverfew that always self-seeds itself here. So you can probably tell this garden bed is a little bit more of a wild garden bed, just like kind of anything goes. Here's a big sunflower that self-seeded itself, volunteered from last year. There is a Veronica back there, pink one. We have some boxwoods in this bed as well, some stone crop there, some sedum that's in bloom. I think that's the autumn fire variety, if I recall. This poor rose needs to be deadheaded, but I think it's a single blooming rose, so won't have anything coming back. And then we have a cherry tree with this boxwood kind of anchor piece at the very back so that nobody drives in that spot. Alright, and turning to this side, this garden bed here, let's take a look. So these pink petunias you see here are the bubblegum pink. So I popped those in for some bright color. We do have some thyme, that's the beautiful purple flowers. That's supposed to be like a kind of a mulch. And here we have a gorgeous pinky winky hydrangea on standard. And it kind of leans over, unfortunately, into the driveway, but it's beautiful. I'll show you these blooms. Just pollinators love it. Also has a clematis growing through there. Here we go, some more bubblegum pink, underplanted with some thyme. This is a ground cover thyme and it's gorgeous. You see all those purple flowers. When it's in bloom, it's just stunning. This bed here, you can see my birch tree here is totally leafed out. It's weeping quite a bit, so it might have to be kind of trimmed up, but I think I'm going to leave that because I do like the look. It does provide some shade. So this year what I did was I had some lobularia or alyssum that overwintered, and then I just added to it because I'm a big fan of alyssum now. So you can see this white flowers are all alyssum. And then I have my wildberry heuchera, which are doing really well. And then over here you can see my mahogany monster is looking a little scorched. So we did have a bit of a heat wave. So you can see that kind of suffered in the sun there. And over here, a little bit of scorching. But, you know, it doesn't look bad. It actually just looks like, you know, like more of a sunsetty tone. But definitely need to give them extra water. These are my Feather Falls Carex, which I actually had split from one plant into 3. And you can see this one is just doing amazing. It's just like loving its life. It's gotten huge. The other 2 are doing pretty well. So I'm not sure if that's actually the right spot for this plant, but it seems to be doing best here compared to other places. So I'm going to leave it. one thing I wanted to note, this is a Supertunia bubblegum, which actually overwintered, believe it or not, and came back for me. And I'm in zone 8B. But we have really wet winters, and I didn't think it would come back, but it did. But the only thing is it came back tiny, so you don't really want to rely on them as perennials in my zone anyways, because they come back so small and you want to get an impact like way earlier in the season. So anyways, what else can I show you? So I have some dahlias that actually overwintered as well. So you usually can't be fussed with dahlias and digging them up, but these ones just came back on their own. And I've already deadheaded a bunch of them, but they're just beautiful ball type dahlias. It's beautiful white color. And here I have my yarrow, which is kind of faded now. Probably could use a deadhead, but that's a great plant for a drought tolerant area. If you need somewhere where, you know, it's like crummy soil, not a lot of moisture, and it seems to be doing well there. And then over here is my yew, which is suffering and does not look great. And I think the reason is because last year my neighbor did dig up this yew in order to put up this wall. So this yew got dug up, and it was very, very established. It got dug up and then replanted. And I think, yeah, I didn't like that. So it was disturbed. And yeah, it's not looking great. You know, I give it a lot of water, but you can see the leaves are turning this yellow color and kind of dying off. And, you know, the top of it looks okay. And there is some new growth. So I'm not quite ready to write it off quite yet, but not looking great. So I'm not too optimistic. All right, let me turn you to this tree here. So I did underplant it with some salvia as well as some alyssum. And again, it's not doing the best. I do have a clematis in there as well for the tree, but I think the tree just steals all the moisture. So you can see how dry it is. And I feel like no matter how much I water this, it just doesn't get enough moisture for those plants. So unfortunately, that might not be successful. And you can see how dry the grass is here. And I also have this tree, and this is a little leaf linden. And that's much more established, much older tree. And that little leaf linden probably takes up most of the moisture, if not all. And then this poor tree is kind of just, you can see it's in the shadow of the little leaf linden. So I don't know how much hope I can have for the plants underneath. But let's look at this corner bed. So this corner bed, I had rose campion in here, which kind of floated right under this lilac on standard. And it was a beautiful look. It was like the lilac was floating on a cloud of rose campion. But they did brown out and dry out, so I did. And, you know, aren't looking the best there because they're kind of at the end of their life cycle. Starting back here, so I have some salvia that I had planted. Flower here as well, the butterfly blue. This nice color there. I've got, this is a Miss Sayori hydrangea, and I've shown you a couple of other examples, and this one is blue, so it kind of tells you about the pH of the soil a little bit, that it's probably more acidic than alkaline here. And yeah, so this is kind of, you know, what I expect kind of in the heat of the summer. Turning over here, this is my Boscobel David Austin rose, which finally rebloomed. So we had a really nice bloom early on, and here we could see another bloom. I see another bud. So not many, but you know, it is only its like kind of first year here, so I'm being patient with it. There's a little fox in the back. That's a glamour little fox that I kind of transplanted, hoping it would take. And we have lavender. This is one that I cut back recently because it was kind of past its prime. And along here, you can see some lavender in here. Also needs to be cut back, looking a little sad. But this is Storm Cloud and Sonia, the foliage here. This one and this one, which is kind of the spring show. So that's kind of the garden on this kind of overcast late July, last day of July. And you can see that, we've been taking a beating with the heat. You can see the grass usually is a lot more green, but it's typical for this time of year. We conserve water here. We're on water restrictions, and the grass bounces back no problem once the rainy seasons return. So I'm not too worried about that. And it comes with a vengeance, all the rain, and we end up getting a lot of moss. So nothing to worry about. But generally, this time of year, what's going on in the garden is a lot of cutting back, a lot of watering, and a lot of maintaining, kind of. And what I'm thinking of doing is, now that the heat kind of has tamped down a little bit, maybe giving some plants a feed, fertilizing some of the ones that looking like they're struggling a bit, maybe a little bit more yellowing. So that's what I'm going to do when I get a chance. And that is our July garden tour. Thank you so much for joining me.